I'm Israel.
Hi, this is Michael.
Welcome to another episode of Ray's Economics Crew Book. Today we'll talk about monopolistic competition.
Okay.
So what exactly is monopolistic competition? Well, basically it means it's many firms that produce for the same group or customers with differentiated products or services. So basically, for instance, we look at the fast food industry, right? We got many different brands like Wendy's, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, all those things. When they all make the same general type of product, which is fast food, or general type of service. However, they're not all the same. The products are not all identical or exactly the same. For instance, Wendy's and McDonald's burgers are not the same, but McDonald's do not make the same sandwiches or burgers as do Chick-fil-A, which makes chicken sandwiches. McDonald's might have different fries than Burger King. They might have different quality of Sprite or Coke, things like that. But basically, they make the same general type of product, just differentiated according to each brand. So they all have brand differentiation or brand difference, not product identity, not product homogeny.
Yeah, they compete for the same group of diners who want a fast food. Okay, but their product apparently create a preference among different people. So that's why we call they have some pricing power like monopoly, but they still compete.
Yeah. So like Michael said, it's like a hybrid between monopolies and perfect competition. Because like perfect competition, there are many firms. There's free entry and exit in the industry. However, unlike like perfect competition, but like monopolies, they are like their own little mini monopoly over their own respective brand and variation of the type of product they're producing. And so they also are price takers rather than price makers. So they have pricing power within their own certain niche or brand. So monopolistic competition in the short run, we see these graphs basically look almost identical to a monopoly. It's maybe less exaggerated as a monopoly, but still the same type of structure. So they can make economic profit in the short run because, and we see here, like a monopoly, their marginal revenue and the demand curve are separate. Remember, they're like their own mini monopoly over their own respective brand and variation of the product. And so in order to increase the amount of quantity produced and sold, they have to decrease price for each unit. And so that means that demand does not equal their actual marginal revenue curve. They have a separate marginal revenue curve that's based off their original demand curve for that one individual firm or brand. And so in the short run, we can see that if marginal revenue meets marginal curve at a production point at where the demand or price level is higher than the average total cost at that production point level, then we see an economic profit in the short term.
Yeah, we know the marginal revenue is actually twice steep as the demand curve because there's no price discrimination. Okay, so in this kind of, just like Ray mentioned, it's a mini monopoly, but the firms can also make a loss, depends on their ATC curve. Because some companies, they may have a very costly structure, right, operation, so their ATC curve is too high, and so they actually have an economic loss. Okay, so because of the barriers are so low, so they can free exit. So in the short run, those companies remain in the industry would be those making a profit.
And so in the long run, of course, because we mentioned in monopolistic competition, like perfect competition, there are many producers, and there's free entry and exit to the industry. There are very low barriers and low barriers to entry and exit, and so which is different from monopoly where there are very high barriers. And so in the long run, if a firm in the short run is making economic profit, for instance, if your local McDonald's is making economic profit, this entices say more Burger Kings or more Chick-fil-A to come into that area and compete with that local McDonald's because they're enticed or incentivized by that short-term economic profit. And so as more firms enter the market, overall that one individual McDonald's are going to see their portion of the fast food industry in that one area drop. And so what that means is that their demand curve or average revenue curve is going to shift to the left. And so because and consequentially the marginal revenue curve, which is based off that demand curve, is also going to shift to the left with that demand curve. So it's going to shift to the left to the point where the price level at the production point, where MR equals MC, is going to be equal to the average total cost at that production point per unit. And so as a result, we see normal profit in the long run because demand shifts left.
Yeah, it sounds like a perfect competition, right? So yes. So
because like perfect competition, there are very low barriers to entry and exit.
Yeah.
So if we compare it directly to perfect competition, we have the Mr. Darp rule, where marginal revenue equals demand equals average revenue equals price.
Yeah.
And so
it's simple.
Yep. And so we have our demand curve or our marginal revenue curve are the same. There's this horizontal curve right here.
Sure.
And in a perfect competition, demand or price equals the point of the average total cost curve where it is the lowest. So it equals the lowest average total cost per point.
Sure.
At its current production level.
Yeah.
So it produces at its lowest average total cost. And so, but a monopolistic competition, because demand is not horizontal, demand curve is slanted, and also it has a separate marginal revenue curve, then in the long run, it will produce at a point where the price is higher than the minimum average total cost curve, or it will produce at a production point where the average total cost is not minimized.
Yeah, exactly. Just the way as mentioned, the outcome is monopolistic competition. Output is lower, but price is higher.
Yes.
Why? Because of the competition, output is lower, and because they have pricing power, they can price is a bit higher compared with perfect competition.
Yes,
okay.
And because price is higher, output is also lower, and because they don't reach their minimum average total cost point, their output is lower. And so that difference between the production point and the perfect competition in that industry and the production point for monopolistic competition is what we call excess capacity. Or more technically speaking, for monopolistic competition, the excess capacity is basically the difference between the production point where average total cost is minimized and the production point where the monopolistic competition firm actually produces at.
Yeah.
And so they have an excess of production that they should try to meet or can try to meet in order to minimize average total cost.
Yeah. So actually, consumer benefit from this kind of competition, right? Because they can, try to differentiate themselves more and do more advertising, maybe better recipe, so that they can actually move up, more of the demand curve.
Because they are price takers and have pricing power in the short run. Because if they want to make economic profit, they can, in order to cover the excess capacity, as Michael mentioned, they can use advertising or more differentiation or better products in order to shift their pricing, shift their average demand curve to the right in order to cover that excess capacity.
Yeah. Okay.
So for our final clues, monopolistic competition and perfect competition have many products, but monopolistic competition, they're all differentiated products rather than homogeneous products. As a result, because a monopolistic competition firm has some differentiation, they have pricing powers over their own respective mini monopoly over their brand.
Sure.
Because branding is very important in monopolistic competition.
Yeah. And finally, I want to stress that actually the demand the pricing is more than the marginal cost in the long run, so it's not allocated efficient. It means we have deadweight loss, right? But in the perfect competition, the allocator is efficient because there's no deadweight loss. The final price is exactly the pricing when the supply meets demand, right? But here it's not the same. We already see that. And again, also the productivity is inefficient because it lead to higher long-run ATC because of competition and so forth. But in the perfect competition, that's a minimum because the price is always meet at minimum ATC, right? But here, the pricing is always higher than the minimum ATC. Right? Okay, we already discussed that. So these are the key difference. We can see monopolistic competition is more likely a hybrid between monopoly and competition, and all the pricing powers really depends on how they differentiate their own product and service by their own efforts. Okay, so see you guys. Bye bye.